Hello and welcome to another thing where I talk about things. So, in the last episode, we fell to the one-hit kills of the evil hare, and that's the end of the series. Now, as usual, keep going with the episodes for a little bit because I want to try to make it so people don't realize it's the end of the series. And I was kind of hoping I'd be able to just putter around on the beach, but we can't get to a back door at where we ended up falling, so we're just gonna see if we could have maybe won with a different loadout. Let's see here. So the interesting thing about the battle was right at the end when I turned into a super user. That's what did me in. Um, I even managed to get up to and kill the last enemy, but when you turn into a super user, you don't actually move, which is why I was still right next to the hair thing, and that's what finally got me. Um, I've also been thinking about, well, what if when I noticed that I was overloading functions and having a bad time, maybe I should have taken away some of the limiters. And sort of, I guess, but part of it is the whole idea behind the series is, well, it's supposed to be let's YOLO the game, not let's do it on the easiest difficulty and then go all the way through without ever being worried about whether or not we're going to manage to finish. So if we had used Cull,
These ones aren't hiding, at least. Still charging.
gonna get those. Gonna have to call him without. Oh, you didn't grab it. That's mean. No, 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 no. Shit. And there's Cole gone. All because... And that's my heavy hitter. That's like, again, the same problem I had before. Now I have get. How am I going to get rid of these people with get? Ah, that's void. And then there's the hair. John lost. Yeah. Looks like this loadout isn't gonna do any better. But that's okay. The other thing would be, well, maybe, yeah, like I said, maybe if I removed some of the limiters. But again, not supposed to be. Supposed to be, in theory. You don't know if I'm going to survive or not. It seems to defeat. That would seem to defeat the purpose. So let's talk about what would have happened. Ah, he ran away. what would have happened if I had not done the thing here where I died. And it looks like I'm gonna do the thing here again where I died. But if I had not, we would have continued on to that guy's secret hideout, which he had rendered somewhat safe from the process. And we would have had to fight him inside the transistor. Yeah, inside the transistor. In order to prevent him from getting control of it. And if we had won, I think he mentioned before, the transistor would have been basically like a paintbrush. You could rebuild the city. Of course, it's not what you do with it, it turns out. What Red actually does is, in order to be with her dead boyfriend again, spoiler alert, would have impaled herself with it, and then they're inside the transistor, which I think is kind of like with Bastion. I think there's a sense of, this is the one. No, that's corrupted cells. Lower twice as much power. Let's go ahead and reset that one. That was the one I was thinking of. It might have helped me get through. And they're inside. So they end up both inside the transistor, and with everyone else presumably. You don't see a picture of them, but since they're all also inside the transistor. And one of the things that I find interesting, is, well, okay, so the sky's blue. They're basically out in the countryside, blue sky, everything's nice, and they're like, hi. I guess we're both inside here now. And
These ones aren't hiding, at least.
why is the sky blue? Because in the city, the sky is blue because they want it to. It looks blue because they want it to.
Still searching.
Damn it. That dick. Oh, that double dick. There we go. I'm having serious trouble with these guys. Not sure. Well, I did get... Okay, so the sky's blue. And presumably it's the same reason in the city. It looks blue because, well, they want it to, or at least they expect it to. And that means, well, it's sort of how the city... Ah, shit. That's just sort of how the world still works that way, I would assume. But so why is it important? Why am I talking about this? Because, well, I need to fill up the time somehow, but also because I think it's kind of like Bastion in that sense. So there's gonna be this basically tendency to reoccur, the same sort of events, and that is well, there's going to be more people eventually in the city, or in the newly formed countryside, and when there's enough people, they're going to make a city, and they're going to have to decide how do we want to decide how these things work. Oh shit. You see, that's the problem with using Git as a weapon when you're fighting explosive hair. I'm doing better at chaining together these things, though. Ah, shit. Run away. Okay, so anyway. Okay. This, like I said, okay, tendency to recur. Got that part down. Because they gotta decide, well, how are we gonna organize the society we find ourselves in. And, well, vote on it is a pretty safe way. Just what the majority of people want. I think we did the same thing again as last time. Oh, well, okay, so we would have gotten through, maybe. It took us. Yeah. Too bad we can't keep going with this. We already died. But they make the city, and then this gets back to what I was talking about with Camerata. When everything changes, nothing changes, and I probably should have made a script for this episode, seeing as how it's not really about the gameplay, but whatever.
So Royce can hold him off, so can you.
They decided that, well, they didn't want everything to change all the time. So they decided to subvert the process. And we never did get the architects' functions or stuff, but basically, I think maybe it is this guy, the guy using the proxy, but he basically saw that things tended to go in cycles. A place would be a bridge, and then people were like, no, we want to park here, and then they decided they wanted something else, but then it would go back around to being like a bridge. He said, well, you know what, I'm going to make something that everyone can use, and everyone hated it. Because part of it is because people wanted to be a part of shaping the city, but not just take it as is, but that means reshaping the things that other people were a part of shaping. And the camera, like I said, the camera didn't like that. Their basic philosophy was that nothing changed, really. It was just sort of the same thing going around and around, and then we get to this, the process of voting, and then changing the city. They decided, well, we're going to make a tool, like we saw when Red made the bridge, despite the fact that the majority of votes had been against that bridge. She had just administrator access to override the votes and put a bridge in. And I guess what they did was they found out what the process, I think, was pretty much always there. It was what shaped the city. It used to shape it in accordance with what people voted for it to shape it at. voted for the city to be shaped as. And now, the Camerata took control of it. They severed it from the power of, you know, the OVC terminals, the power of the vote, the power of the people, and they told it to make something permanent. And then it started processing things. Everything. It turned it into this sort of flat, white, boring city without anyone around.
That a terminal? Whatever Roy sees in this place, I don't.
Whenever people make a change, whether to the sea or the sky or anywhere in between, the process does the real work. Invisible, behind the scenes. Well, I say whoever does the real work ought to get the credit. So I found a way to put the process center stage, a way to keep the process working in concert, in harmony.
Enough with the history.
Yeah.
Don't like it here.
Well, let's see, it's about 10 minutes. I don't know, I don't really want to keep going forward with this. Like I said, it's supposed to be the end of the series, just me talking about stuff. So what happened now that I kind of fell back there, actually, in reality? It kind of depends. Can the proxy pick up the transistor? It doesn't have any hands. It has that sort of the plug thing back in the back. Grant can't really leave his sanctuary without the transistor. He can't just come and pick it up. But if his proxy can, well, he probably has it delivered to himself by himself, and then he rebuilds the city as he wanted to. But even then, there's still really not anything to stop another sort of... Well, there's nothing really to stop this from happening, except maybe he knows. He knows one of the ways things can go wrong. But I'm not really sure how they plan on bringing any of the people back, though. That's sort of not really possible at this point. There's more people inside the transistor than outside the transistor, as far as I know. We missed an OVC terminal. There was one. The reporter person we kept on seeing said basically everything else was gone, and the process was about to consume them all. But so the other option is, of course, he can't get to the transistor, or the proxy can't pick it up, and eventually the process overwhelms even his bastion, and then things sort of go the way they would have gone within the if I had won, except Red isn't inside the actually. I don't see why Red couldn't be inside the transistor even, because she's right next to it when she dies, and that's how Dead Boyfriend got inside the transistor. So I guess she would be in there. But the process hasn't been sort of controlled in the outside world. But there's nothing left to process, so it doesn't really matter. They're just going to be, either way, they're just going to kind of sit there in their eternal whiteness. Like we saw all the cuckers. They were at the stage in the seats, just sort of watching nothing. Once they were done processing, they just sort of stopped. And that's at least how I think things go from here. Which is kind of odd, because I've just concluded that it might not even make a difference if you actually win or lose past this point. Huh. Well, Anyway, that's gonna be, I think, the end of this episode. We'll see what game I play for the next series. As always, you only live once.